Shalom Aleichem, good morning. Welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime as well. One dedicated this year for the Atzlacha of Ben Zion, Ben Dosa, him and his family. Refuah Shleima, Bekorov, Betoch Sh'al Choyle Yisrael, too. Chaim Meir Doiv, Ben Yente, who needs tremendous Rachmei Shamayim. Miriam Bas Leah, and Malka Chana Bas Beila. Also, I want to dedicate and congratulate our dear friend Alon Binyamin Klein, Mazel Tov for his new son. And a yortzeit for the Isha Chashuva, Fega Bas Shimon HaKohen, that tonight starts her yortzeit, in Mitzvah Hashem. She should be a Militzas Yoisha for the family and for Klal Yisrael. Mitzvah Hashem, Matos, Massei, some Chizuk, some Shloshta Shavuos, 3 weeks, in the end of the year, we'll see how much time we have. Mitzvah Hashem. So in Parshas Matos, the Pasuk says, Lo Yachel Devaroi, Kechol HaYoitze Mipiv Yaaseh. When a person says something, he must go through with it. He must fulfill what he said. Did it ever happen to you? You go to Shul, Shabbos morning. You get an aliyah. You're a guest. Where's your regular Shul? And then the Gabbai says, Mishaberach Avoseinu Avo Mitzvah Yaakov Hu Yevarech Et Hashem Matot, and he says your name Ba'avur Sheiten. And he looks at you, no. What can you do? So you say 180, 50. 2,000, depending on the place. 54, 101, depends where you are. Do you actually have to go Motzi Shabbos and pay that? You never said, I will give. You said a number. Or in some places, he says a number for you. Do you actually have to? When did you say, I'm making a neder, I'm taking upon myself to pay? You never said it. Do you have to pay?
At the end, you said amen.
You said amen. Did you say, I'm making a neder? He gave you a bracha, you say amen. Who says you have to pay it?
When he mentions the amount, you know what he's doing.
You know, but did you ever say, Mishabech? It's very uncomfortable. People who are watching, what am I going to say? I'm not giving a dime to this place. The chazan is too slow. You're not going to say that. So you're forced to say the number. Do you actually have to pay? You say clearly you have to pay. No question. 100%. Anyone begs to differ? It's clear. I'm sorry?
The Shul like long to send you a reminder.
And therefore?
Got in the legal section, so share.
Okay, thank you very much for reminding me. I remember I had the great honor and I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll get another one this Shabbos. What does it have to do with what I'm asking?
But it shows that the Shul is...
It shows the Shul wants you to pay. Who says you're obligated halachically to pay? Do you have to pay? Yeah. No, so simple to you. What word did I say? A word is binding when I say, I will pay. I never said that. I said a number, 180. What does that mean?
You say
Clear by the context that means that you have to pay this.
Who says?
Because everybody has done before and after for years.
Maybe everybody's just very generous people and they like to give money to shuls. Does it actually obligate me? And if I don't pay, am I transgressing something?
because the Shul considers the fake tiktok
And therefore?
So if you say something that you can make because starting you say you've got to bring something to fake with you.
But you never said you're going to bring something to Beis Hamikdash. You just said a number. The Gabbai did all the work for you. And I didn't ask him to.
We cannot, for example, if we go with this reasoning, we can even challenge, is the shaking hands an agreement? I don't know if it's shaking. I mean, we can push it very far and
Good question. Good question. Let's see. Not so pashut. Shalosh Tshuvos Doivev Meisharim. That's the Chabin Erov. Chelek Aleph Simen Pei Zayin. As well as the Maharsham. Maharsham is Godol Ador 100 years ago. Da'as Torah in Yoredei Simen Reish Gimel. And they both say that what you promise when you get an aliyah in shul is not a neder. Because you never say that you're going to obligate yourself to give a certain amount. It's not a neder. You didn't say anything. Chidish. They bring a raya from the Or Zarua. Or Zarua is one of the Rishonim. And the Maharsham says, in Hilchos Shabbos, the Maharach Or Zarua asks, how in the world is it possible that you bichlal say this Misha Berach and make a neder on Shabbos? Making a neder on Shabbos, transaction, money on Shabbos, how is it possible? So tzorch is mitzvah, certain darim one can, but if it's a way to avoid it, it's better to avoid it. But you're also doing some transactions, money, business on Shabbos. Says the Maharach Or Zarua, there is no neder. That's why there's no question about how come we making a neder, because there is no neder. Unbelievable. And even if the guy who got an aliyah commanded the Gabbai, you better make sure you give me a bracha, you give me a mishaberach. Since the guy there, Ganaliyah, didn't say, Ani noider, I'm making a neder, there is no neder. All he's doing is listening and being silent. Says the Ozawa, there is no neder. However, the Maharsham concludes that one has to go through with this and pay based on his promise because of a different problem, not a neder. That when you say something, you have to fulfill it. I never said anything. I just said a number. A number means nothing. So why do you have to pay, says the Maharsham? Because in Shulchan Aruch Yoredea, in Reish Nun Ches, in Hilchot Tzedakah, we learn that if you even think in your heart, you didn't say anything, think in your heart to give money to tzedakah, you have to go through with it and you have to pay. So too here, even though you didn't say anything, but Lemaisa you thought, I'm going to give. Tzedakah is different than all other mitzvahs. When you think about paying, giving to tzedakah, you're obligating yourself. But according to the Taz, that the Taz says, thinking is not sufficient. Thinking doesn't obligate you in tzedakah, you don't have to pay. L'choira here too, you will not have to pay what you said to the Gabbai.
You didn't say when though. Why do you have to go Motzei Shabbos?
Two reasons. Not necessarily Motzei Shabbos, it's going to be Sunday morning. Two reasons. First of all, Zrizin Magdibin Mitzvahs. Second of all, Chalila, you don't want to transgress Bal Te'acher. When you make a pledge to tzedakah, you have to make sure 3 regalim don't pass. If they do, you just transgress Bal Te'acher. So the sooner you do it, the better. When a person brings a korban to Hashem, he doesn't say, does he say korban la Hashem or la Hashem korban? What should he say? Does it make a difference? This behemoth, Kodesh Baruch Hu, what's the difference? Korban la Hashem or la Hashem korban? Does it make a difference? What should he say?
And the answer is yes, I don't know why.
He should say korban la Hashem, not la Hashem korban. Why? Because maybe after he says the word la Hashem, Chas v'sholem is going to die. Comes out, his thumb said Hashem's name in vain. So we're afraid. Do you have an insurance policy? You know how long you're going to be here? Mitzvah Hashem, at least 120 years. But when you have the opportunity to do a mitzvah, Zrizin Magdim in mitzvahs. Run fast, do it. But the most important thing is not to transgress Bal Te'ach. And when we don't do things, we forget, hey, I'll get to it. I'll get it later. And then Chas v'sholem, the time passes and one can't transgress. So, according to the Maharsham here, if we go with the Taz, that Machshava doesn't obligate you, you don't have to pay. Sefer Erech Shai, Yoredei Siman Reish Gimel. He says, we force the person who got an aliyah to pay what, as if he pledged to, the number that he said, because of a different reason. There's all kinds of kinyanim. Kinyan Meshicha, you pull something. Kinyan Hagba, you raise something. There's a kinyan called Kinyan Situmta. What is Situmta? In Aramaic, Situmta means a stamp, a seal. That is the normal way merchants decide to close the deal. Like you said, shaking hands. Shaking hands obligates. In that industry where shaking hands is the closing of the deal, you commit yourself, you're obligated to do whatever you went through, whatever you committed yourself to. So because of Kinyan Situmta, and the whole idea in Kinyanim is to create Gemirus Das. That the two people, the transaction is made between two people, they really want to commit to do this. I really have a Gmirus that I want to transfer the ownership to you, and you want to pay me, and with that we do the transaction. In a certain industry where it's done in a certain way, that causes Gmirus Das between the two partners. Here in the Shul, this is how it's done. This is what's called Minhag HaSoicharim. That I say Mishaberach, you say the number, you say Amen, everybody responds and says Amen, and that's Gmirus Das. You knew that ahead of time when you got up there to the Bima. And because of this Situmta, this Kinyan Situmta, that's the name of this Kinyan. This Lord is Machlokes, if it's the Yorais or the Rabbanim. But anyways, this Kinyan works. But Divrei Yatziv writes, to explain the Darkei Moshe based on the Rosh, that some say Kinyan Situmta only works when there's a Massei. Shaking a hand, or something else. But just saying a few words doesn't cause a Kinyan Situmta. According to that, again, you won't have to pay. But in a different way, potentially we will have to obligate a person to pay because of what's called Yados Nedarim. What's a yad to the neder? Like a handle to a vow. The Gemara Nazir Daf Beis says, a person is a Nazir, he walks by you. And all you say is, Ehe, I will be. You didn't say anything else. I will be what? But you happen to say that right when the Nazir goes in front of you, you're a Nazir. This is called Yados Nedarim. It's like a handle. You're holding the pot with a handle. You're a handle to the Nazir. So here too, since the Gabbai says, Ba'avu sheyiten, and you say the number, that's the handle to the neder, and we made it because of that, you have to pay. And another svara, since you said Amen on the Mishabeach, that means you're obligating yourself to that. He said Mishabeach, you're going to get a bracha for this and this if you go through with this and this, and you said Amen. But a big chiddush. Reb Shlomo Stern, Reb Moshe Sternbuch Shlita writes that in my shul we made a new minhag, a very good minhag, and instead of saying the language ba'avu sheyiten, he should give and then he's going to get a bracha, we don't say it like this. We say hu yevarech es ploni ben ploni kshe yiten matana, when he will give the gift. Which means we're saying to the guy who's going to aliyah, if you want the bracha, give money to the shul. He never committed himself. The language, the formulation of this bracha is, if you want a bracha to be bestowed on you, go and give money. When you give, you get a bracha. And if you didn't give, so there's no bracha. This way a person will not stumble and having vows that he didn't fulfill. And that's a tremendous chiddush. I think it's a beautiful minute. So one has to be extremely careful what he says because of what you said before. Moitzas vasecha tishmor ve'asisa, you should fulfill what you say. Moran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal once told his grandson, you know, when I was young, I figured it's a good idea to have one Massei-3 that you know Baal Peh. One Massei-3, you own it. So you get stuck anywhere. You're on a bus, you're waiting for the doctor, there's no Sfarim there. What do? You have a Massei-3, you're not stuck without a Sefer. So he says to him, when I was young, I decided I want to learn Kiddushin Baal Peh. I started learning Kiddushin, and I got halfway through, and I decided it's bothering me with my other Sdarim, it's taking too much time, so I decided to stop. So his grandson says, Saba, isn't it a shayla of a neder? You committed yourself to doing something good, it's shayla of a neder. So Reb Chaim says to him, no, it's before I got to Oinas HaNedarim. What's Oinas HaNedarim? A boy from the age of 12 to 13, technically speaking, he's not obligated mitzvahs. But when he reaches the age of 12 and he makes a neder, so we have to check him out. And if he understands the meaning of a neder, the meaning of a vow and whom he made the neder to, he actually has to go through it and fulfill it. Before that, it's meaningless. So Reb Chaim says this was before I got to Oinas HaNedarim, before I got to the age of 12. There's a few chidushim in the story. First of all, that before he got to the age of 12, he already wanted to own a certain Masechet and to know it by heart. Second of all, that before he was at the age of 12, he already knew half of Masechet's Kiddushin by heart. And maybe the biggest chiddush, that before he was at the age of 12, it already bothered him. It took too much time from the other Sedarim that he had. Ay, 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 ay. Lo yachel devar kechol hayoytze mipiv ya'aseh. Listen to a Massei. There's a guy in Shiduchim. 33 years old, Baruch Hashem, finally found his bashert, got engaged, beautiful. One day he's sitting with his kala and with his best friend, and they're reminiscing. This guy started dating when he was 19 years old. He went out with a lot of girls, and it was very difficult for him. After a year that he went out with a bunch of girls and nothing happened, his friend told him, you know, there's a very big tzaddik, one of Gedolei Hador. Why don't I take him to you? I have connections there. Give you a bracha. But he says, Ruach HaKodesh in his mouth, mamish. Okay, fine. What do I have to lose? So you remember when we said, he said, yeah, sure, of course I remember that Massei. I remember all the details. So he said, I'll tell you. We went to that tzaddik, and he had long white beard, old man. You saw mamish Ruach HaKodesh residing on him. And you told him you're dating and it's not working out. He asked for a bracha. And suddenly the tzaddik looked at you and he said, your Shiduch is very near. Your Shiduch is very, very close. Wow. He was so inspired. Remember? He said, oh yeah, now I remember. Yeah. He said, oh yeah, I said, if the words of the tzaddik are going to come true, I'm going to pay $5,000 to tzedakah. And the friend said, yes, to my organization that I had. So yeah, I remember that. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. 3 months passed, 6 months, a year, 2 years. After 3 years, he totally forgot about it. Initially, he was very inspired. He felt mamish, Ruach HaKodesh. But after 3 years, 5 years, 7 years that he didn't get married. So they're talking about it. And the friend says, I actually think I still have the video of that. Oh, wow. The Kala says, I'd like to see it. I know the tzaddik. My family is also very connected to him. I'd love to see him, give him a bracha to my Chassan. So the friend runs home, and he finds the video. He brings it back, and he shows them. And they're watching this, and they're watching, and suddenly the Kala says, wait! Stop! This is unbelievable! Right when the tzaddik was saying, your Shiduch is very near. Your Shiduch is very close. The Kala says to her Chassan, look! Who's standing behind you? My father! Who is he holding in his hands? Me! There's a 13 years gap between these Chassan and Kala. I was 7 years old at the time. The tzaddik was right. He said, your Shiduch is very near. I was 3 feet away. Can't get closer than that. Your Shiduch is very close. He's right. Ruach HaKodesh, HaKodesh Baruch Hu puts just the right words in his mouth. His mamash came true. Wow, this is amazing. And the friend says, whoa, wait a second. You said if the words of the tzaddik come true, you're going to pay $5,000 to tzedakah. Pay up. Does he have to pay or not?
Must pay.
What do you say? I'm sorry?
Must pay. Has to pay.
Has to pay? 5,000? What about inflation? This was 13 years ago. What about inflation? 5,000.
When we say near, he understood near in terms of time, not near in terms of geography. So that was his understanding.
That's what he understood. That's what he said.
Right.
But lemaise, what did he say? He said, if the words of the tzaddik come true, I will pay. Did the words of the tzaddik come true or not? He said, it's very close, it's very near. Was he right? Yes, proximity-wise, can be better than that. 3 feet away. You said, if the words come true. You didn't say if I get married in 3 months. Maybe that's what you meant. But that's not what you said. The words of the tzaddik came true. Don't know, that's what I'm asking.
He was thinking about come true, meaning what he said will happen in the future. What he was saying is true. It could be it is true, but he wasn't the Kabbal that if it is true, it comes true.
Whatever comes out of your mouth, you must fulfill. You said if the words of the tzaddik come true, and they did. We see now, we're tracking 100% it came true. What do you say? What about Lashon Be'adam?
Near means close in time.
Who told you? Is that halacha? That was Paskin halacha? Shulchan Aruch Yoredea Siman Reish Yudchet Seif Aleph Amechaber Paskins. When a person makes a neder, we don't go after what he said. We don't go after Lashon Be'adam. We go after what he meant. That's what you meant to say. We go after what he meant. And it's clear to all of us that he didn't want to stay another 13 years. Baruch Hashem, that the words of the tzaddik came true in this way. Because otherwise he would have to get married to a girl who's 7 years old. He for sure didn't want that. Baruch Hashem, it came true. But that's not what he meant when he committed himself to the neder. The Massei-3, the halacha is, we go after the meaning. And here it's an umden ademuchach. It is clear to all of us that when he made that commitment, he meant in time and not in distance. And therefore he doesn't have to pay even $1. The pasuk in the parasha says, "Vayiktzov Moshe." What is Vayiktzov? Very angry. Shh, ketzef. So let's ask a question about fuming. There's a guy who has a store, which happens to be very busy between 4 and 6 p.m. And it gets very, very busy, and he needs a patient worker. Somebody with a lot of patience, because people they start pushing and stuff. It's very, very busy there. And his dedicated worker just left, so he needs somebody else. So he put an ad in the paper. I'm looking for a very, very patient worker. Job description, great. A lot of people called, and 20 of them were invited to an interview, all at the same time. Wednesday at 10 a.m. He put him in a very small room, very hot, no AC. And he sent a guy, who we should call a professional nudge, to come and bother them. He sits next to this guy and he pushes him and he leans on this guy and he starts yelling and accidentally he spills his coffee there. All crazy things. And the owner of the store is sitting in his office and watching everything that's going on. He has a camera there and he knows exactly what's going on. And he's watching them for 2 hours. And they all lost their patience. This guy starts yelling at him. Move out of here, what are you doing for her? Everybody is losing their patience. It's hot, it's crowded, and this guy is just annoying them. There was one guy who kept smiling. Looks very cool, calm, and collected. He's patient. Great. So after 2 hours, the owner calls him in for an interview. And he interviews him, and he says, you got the job. He goes out to that room, and he says to all the other 19 guys, you're free to go. We already accepted somebody for the job. And everybody gets upset. Wait a second. This guy that you invited first, he came last. He said, the interview didn't start now. The interview started 2 hours ago. I was watching all of you. I saw exactly what I needed. I put an ad in the paper that I'm looking for a person who's very patient. And I wanted to see who's patient. And I got my guy. Thank you very much. Have a great day. The guys start getting upset. And one of the guys says, that's so unfair. Chutzpah. The other guy says, listen, normally I'm very, very patient, but just before I came here, don't ask what happened at home. The third guy says, what you did is an issue. You caused us to get upset. That's called lifnei iver. You put a stumbling block before a blind person. We had no idea. You caused us to get upset. And the Gemara says in Shabbos Kufei, one who gets upset, it's like you caused us to get upset. Issue. Comes now the owner and asks, is it true? Am I allowed to cause somebody to get upset or not? He says, look, I invited people under the premise that they're patient. That's what the ad said. I wanted to see if you can handle pressure. That's exactly what you were called for. So yeah, but you caused me to get upset. Lifnei iver. Are they right or not? Is he allowed to do so or not? Are you allowed to do this? You're allowed to cause a person to get upset or not? What do you say, Rabbi Isai?
He called for an interview, not for a test.
Right?
So there is reception to him, even though he
So you're not allowed to do this?
Came for an interview, not to be tested.
So you're not allowed to do this? Don't you think some interviews are basically all a test? Some are hidden ones and some are revealed ones. You know, in some yeshivas, what they do for a test. They call you in to interview you and to test you in the Gemara. And meanwhile, they put all kinds of foods on the table. And they want to see if the guy knows the prioritization in brachos. Well, they have to take something. There's a cake and there's an apple. And they just want to see what you're going to say a bracha for first. So there's some hidden and some revealed tests. You don't like it.
But it's 2 hours.
And if it's 20 minutes?
Maybe.
What's the cutoff line? 22 minutes?
If they chose to come, I mean, they could leave if they want.
Right.
For patients, they can't claim, they can't be upset at someone else. They can leave if they don't want to wait.
Are you allowed to cause a person to get upset? Is there a lifnei iver when you're causing a person? I want to test you.
Yeah, a person should not b'chavana make someone upset.
But he is doing it b'chavana.
But the upsetness, no. He was not. He was making them stay for a long time. But he actually didn't make them do anything. They could have left. He didn't make them do anything.
A new question. Forget about that setting. A new question. Am I allowed to try and cause you to get upset? I want to see what you're made out of. Am I allowed to?
I think that would be problematic.
That would be problematic.
You try to make them upset.
That's exactly what he tried to do.
But
He tried to get them upset to see how they handled it.
and I'm saying that I could leave. I can leave.
You can also leave when I try to make you upset.
Right.
So why am I not allowed to do this?
So maybe you're allowed.
You're allowed to.
Yeah.
What are we looking for? Documentation, sources. something.
Maybe this is the machlokas between Hillel and Shammai. It's the famous case with the Ger.
With the ger. You have a source that says that this is the machlokes?
I'm just saying, well, you see that Shammai drove him away because he was really being very annoying to him, and Hillel accepted him. So maybe that's...
But that's a shaila and the goy. At this point, he's a goy. Is he allowed to cause somebody? He's not. That's not one of the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. Not 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Rabbi Isai, Orchos tzadikim, a must in every Jewish home. Orchos tzadikim, great sefer Musa, mamish a must. In Shar called Shar Hakas, the anger chapter, he writes, Hakas goyrem azus le'adam. Anger causes a person to be brazen. And because of the anger, he will not surrender and will not admit to the truth. Listen to a language. Ve'amar hachacham. Kshetirtze lehitchaber im echad. If you're looking for a friend, you want to see if this guy is a good guy or not. You want to find a friend? Hach isehu. Try to get him upset. And if he will admit to you the truth at the time that he's angry, make him your best friend. And if not, azov oto. Stay away from this guy. Pillei ploim. Shar HaKas says that's the greatest test. You want to find out if he's a good guy or not? That's how you test him. Amish pillei ploim. But why is it? Because I'm looking for a good friend, I'm allowed to cause him a lifnei iver, that I'm causing him to get angry? This shaila already appears in the Gemara. Kiddushin, Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. Rav Huna tore a very expensive silk garment in front of his son Rabba. Why? He wanted to test him. He wanted to see if he's going to get upset or not. Ask the Gemara, what are you doing, Rav Huna? V'dil maratach, and maybe he will get angry. And it comes out that you're transgressing lifnei iver. What are you doing? Answers the Gemara, Rav Huna already ahead of time was moichel his honor. So even if he's going to get upset, no big deal. Asks the Chidah, Birkei Yosef Yored Yareish Mem, what is that going to help? That only answers that if he's going to get upset at his father already took care of business, and he's not going to transgress moirav, but it still doesn't help the fact that he got angry. And the Gemara says, Shabbos Kufei, if one gets angry, it's like avodah zarah. So does that help? Chidah comes up with a chiddush. There's 2 types of anger. Major anger, a lot of anger. That's what the Gemara says, that's like avodah zarah. Just a little anger, no big deal. If you get a little angry, it's not considered like you're serving avodah zarah. So, says the Chidah, Rav Huna was sure that his son is not going to get angry a lot. He's just going to get a little angry, maybe. And then, even if he does, he's not transgressing lifnei iver. But the Ben Ish Chai, in his Shalosh Tshuvos Torah Lishma, in Siman Shin Ayin, he writes in a different answer. There is no lifnei iver when it comes to anger. Because he says that's the normal way. You go to a store, 2 merchants, they try, and each one try to get a better price, and they argue, and inevitably they get the other person to get upset. You want to tell me, says the Ben Ish Chai, that because of that he transgresses lifnei iver? If that's the case, lo matzanu yadeinu v'ragleinu. How can we ever do business? You always get upset in business. And therefore he says, it's not a problem to cause somebody else to get upset, and it's not considered lifnei iver. Maybe a little raya to this. Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah says in Pirkei, Mishnah Yud Aleph, there's 4 midos for Deos in Deos. 4 midos. There's a person who's kashe lichos. It's very hard to get him angry, but he's noyach lirtzot. He's appeased very easily. What is he called? What's his name? A chassid. Why is he called a chassid where it is kashe lichos? It should have said that he never gets upset. You see that if he's kashe lichos, every so often he will get just hard to get him angry. That's already a chassid. Meaning if he never gets upset, that's not a normal person, that's a malach. That's an angel. Otherwise the Tana should have said a person who never gets upset, that's a chassid. No, the Tana says kashe lichos.
But the Mitzvah shouldn't seem to say never, right? And he has all the different levels of gas.
The Rambam too. The Rambam says in Hilchos Deos you should go all the way to the extreme, even though normally you should go in the middle way. But it doesn't say that it's impossible, that every so often it will happen to you. The Chidah says there is lifnei iver, but it depends how much of an anger are we talking about. So based on, back to our question with the store owner, did he transgress or not? According to the Ochos Tzadikim and the Ben Ish Chai, there's no problem at all. The Ben Ish Chai says there's no such thing as lifnei iver in anger. Ochos Tzadikim says that's the way to test the person. And according to the Chidah, even according to the Chidah, most of the time it's not going to be a problem. I don't know how bad it's going to be in there. They know that in 2 hours they're leaving here after the interview, so hopefully they're not going to get so angry that even the Chidah will say that he transgressed. Lichoira, it seems that will be okay. Parshas Matos, we learn about Tvilas Kelim, going to the mikveh, dipping your vessels. Is there an Inyan to acquire vessels just to do this mitzvah? Or when you have a kli and you need to use it, so then you have to go to the mikveh? What do you say?
When you bath, then you need to. You don't just bath because you want to.
If you happen to buy, you should go to the mikveh. And if you buy it and you don't want to use it, you still have to go to the mikveh?
If you don't use it, you're never going to use it.
I don't know when I'm going to use it, but right now I'm not using it. Do I have to toivel it?
You might use it by mistake.
So put a note, not toivel. There's no halacha that requires you to go and toivel. This type of a mitzvah is called a matir. Meaning, if you want to eat kosher meat, you have to shech the behema. But that's called a matir. In order to allow you to eat, you have to shech. But there's no mitzvah to go and shech. You can go throughout your whole life, if you don't like meat, you don't want to eat meat, and you don't have to shech any behemoths. If you want to eat, there's a way to do it. Go shech the behemoth. It's called matir. If you want to use a vessel, it must be, if it requires tevilah, you need to toivel it. But if you don't want to use it, and you buy it just for decoration, or you buy it for, in 3 years from now I'm going to start using it, so before you use it, you have to toivel it. It's a good idea to toivel it in order not to make a mistake, but if you put a sign saying, this was never in the mikveh yet, there's no problem. Everybody agrees? There's no problem. However, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Engel was a genius of all geniuses. He wrote Chidushim in all subjects of Torah, revealed and concealed. He wrote Asvan Deoraisa, Lekach Tov, Gilyoinei Hashas. He wrote a sefer called Shivim Panim LaTorah with 70 answers to one question. He wrote a sefer called Gvuros Shmoinim with 80 answers to one question. So in Gilyoinei Hashas, in Psochim Kuf Yud Gimel, he brings some Yerushalmi. There's a Yerushalmi in Avodah Zorah that says, Reb Hoshaya Zabin Kelim Umatbilan. What does that mean? Reb Hoshaya bought vessels and took them to the mikveh. What does that mean? Says the Pnei Moshe, you know what it means that Reb Hoshaya only went to the mikveh when he acquired new vessels and not when he borrowed them. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel in his Chidushim, it's a very big dochak. Why do you have to say that? Why would he go to the mikveh if he just borrowed something from someone else? And therefore he is Mechadesh. That Rabbi Hoshaya made it his business to go and buy vessels in order to go to the mikveh to put him in the mikveh to do this mitzvah. A tremendous mitzvah, chiddush. Comes out from this Rabbi Yosef Engel that there's an Inyan to buy new vessels just to obligate yourself to the mitzvah of going to the mikveh. A tremendous chiddush. One more thing, the Parshas Matos. Bilam was killed with a sword. Bilam is a Rasha. It gives us an opportunity to ask a question. Where can you bury a Rasha? Can you bury a Rasha by a tzaddik? And kovrim Rasha etzel tzaddik. It's a Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Mem Zayin. Quoted la'alacha. How much more so you don't bury a goy? Ba'id. But why not? Why can't you bury a Rasha by a tzaddik? What's the problem? They're going to start fighting? What's the problem?
It's happened though that we say the head of Esav is buried in Makpelah.
Head of Esav was saturated with Torah. His body, not exactly, but his head, where did he grow up? In what house? Was his chavrusa? He was full of Torah. His body, not exactly, didn't behave accordingly, but the head, yes. The head is with what he honored his father.
But the head is the ikka of the body, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a chiddush.
If he had Torah, but then he went off, we still consider it full of Torah.
I'm sorry?
If someone was full of Torah and then went off, still full of Torah, do we consider it full of Torah?
Yeah, so normally it's a package deal. Normally it's a whole body. Here, that's the reason some explain only the head was chopped off and rolled and got to be buried with the tzaddikim because his head was full of Torah. But his body led him in different places. That's one of the explanations why his head was zoiche to be there. But, L'Chassam Sofer and many others maintain that it's actually a halacha leMoshe misinai that you don't bury a rasha by a tzaddik. Rus Moavia said to Nomi, Ba'asher tamuti amus v'sham ekaver, I'm willing to be buried wherever you are. The Targum over there explains one of the halachos that separates us and the nations is what Nomi taught her, that you know, separate burial. And on that, Rus answers and says to her, whatever you buried, I want to be buried. I want to be buried like a Yid. In other words, I want to be like you. But what's the reason? Says the Sefer Ma'avar Yabok. A lot of secrets in the Sefer Ma'avar Yabok, in Yanei Kabbalah, and he writes, when the tzaddik dies, they reveal to him from Shamayim all kinds of secrets of Torah. But if he is buried close to the Rasha, they do not teach him anything in Torah in order for the Rasha not to be able to hear the secrets of Torah. Now we move there was Parshas Matos. Let's try a little Parshas Massei. Unintentional killer. There's a special commandment in the Torah. Tachin lecha haderech v'shilashta, you have to put signs. City of refuge, 3 miles ahead. Another sign, when you get 3 miles ahead, make a right, city of refuge, a left and a right. You have to put signs. Baalei HaMusar ask, why is it that for unintentional killer, you have to put up signs all over? But 3 times a year, thousands and thousands of tzaddikim go up to Yerushalayim. Not all of them know the way to Yerushalayim, but there are no signs. There's no mitzvah in the Torah, thou shalt put a sign, this way to Yerushalayim, Beis HaMikdash, to the left. It doesn't say. So thousands of tzaddikim who don't know the way can get mixed up 1,000,000 times if Waze is not working, and they don't know how to get to Yerushalayim. Maybe you don't feel like you want to help them. But an unintentional killer, let's help him. Let's make it easier for him. Yeah, let's put up signs all over. Every 2 miles there's a sign. City of refuge. Go here. Go here. Why? 2 ways. Baalei HaMusar say like this. Unintentional killer, you're right, it's only unintentional. But lemaise, if he was more careful, he wouldn't take a life. When you talk to a person, something of that person rubs off on you. We don't want to have any association with a killer. And therefore, we want to make sure that he goes there as fast as possible so he doesn't have to stop and ask us, excuse me, where's the city of refuge? I'm on the way to, you know where it is? Oh, to make it right. Can you make me a map? And you start talking to your... We don't want any association with a killer. But with the tzaddikim, they come to Yerushalayim, if they don't know the way, we're going to help them. They're tzaddikim. They do the mitzvahs. We want to be in touch with them. We want their tzidkus to rub off on us. And therefore, no signs for the people who are going up to the regel, and yes, many signs to the rotzrim. That's one way. One ma'alach. Reb Chaim Zaychik, Rosh Yeshiva of Novodok, he says exactly the opposite. The killer is not such an innocent person. You're right, he killed. But Lemaisa, he got his punishment. He is going to get stuck now in the city of refuge, you know for how long? No one knows. Maybe for the rest of his life. If the Kohen Gadol will outlive him, he is staying there. So you want to add more punishment and more embarrassment? When he stops and he says, excuse me, how do I get to this in this city? City of refuge. Why do I? You're an unintentional killer. I'll tell you where to go. How embarrassing! Why should he have to ask you? So we want to prevent any embarrassment from a Yid. Unless the Torah tells you to embarrass a person, you shouldn't. The Torah already gave him a punishment, a major one. He's going to get stuck there for who knows how many years. You want to add more embarrassment? He has to tell you, I'm going to a city of refuge. Oh, yeah. You look like a killer. Chas v'sholom. But the tzaddikim who go up to Yerushalayim, again, there's no problem. He gets stuck, he doesn't know the way. Well, explain to him. Where are you going? Oh, you're a tzaddik. You're going to Yerushalayim. You're going to give him honor. You're going to give him respect. Givaldik. Look how important, how dear the honor of every Yid to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. Even a person who's already punished. But chas v'shalom, to add more punishment. And if that's the truth, to an unintentional killer, how important it is to a person who's not a killer. How careful we have to be with the honor of our friends. And since we're on the unintentional killer, he can only leave when the Kohen Gadol dies. What's the connection? What's the connection to a Kohen Gadol? So the Rikanti is one of the Rishonim. Normally he explains things based on Kabbalah. And he says, with his death, the Kohen Gadol atones because Misas Tzadikim Mechaperes. The death of Tzadikim atones. And therefore the unintentional killer can walk out. He's the only Tzadik. The Kohen Gadol is the only Tzadik in the generation. There's many other Tzadikim. Maybe. You're right. There's many Tzadikim. There's many tzaddikim that market themselves as tzaddikim. There are many tzaddikim that their followers portray them as big tzaddikim, but they're not necessarily the biggest tzaddikim. There are real tzaddikim. But how do you know who's a real tzaddik? How would you know? There's only one person that you know, Kohen Gadol. Because we all saw him going in Kodesh HaKodashim on Yom Kippur and somehow making it out. He survived. And in Kodesh HaKodashim, if the Kohen Gadol has an improper thought, for one split second, he doesn't make it out. So much so that the Zohar says, by Sheni, there are a lot of Kohanim Gedolim who didn't make it. So they actually used to tie their leg with a golden chain, because we can't go in. If he dies in Kodesh HaKodashim, we can't go in and rescue him. So if he would die, we would just pull him out. More than 300 Kohanim in time of second base of Midrash that only lasted for 420 years. Because many of them didn't make it. So normally a Kohen Gadol is definitely a person that we know he is a tzaddik. Because he goes into Kodesh HaKodashim and he comes out. So we know he's a tzaddik, and that's why his death definitely atones, and the unintentional killer can't leave the city of refuge.
What's the connection with the unintentional killer? I mean, Mechaperet, maybe all Jews will be here when the Kohen dies. Well,
When the Kohen...
Why after with
Because we don't know when his sin will be atoned for, that he finally can come out. But we know that when a tzaddik dies, it atones for the generation, not only for the unintentional killer, for everybody, so that he's included. So now he can finally step out of the city of refuge. In Parshas Massei is the mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael. The pasuk says, "Ve'orashtem et haaretz v'yishavtem ba." Many times the Torah speaks about the virtues of Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Zav v'Schalav v'Dvash. But here we have a command, according to the Ramban, there's a mitzvah deoraisa to sit in this country. V'yishavtem ba. Go and inherit the land. Somebody asked me an interesting shayla. He takes a plane from Syria in the north and he flies over Eretz Yisrael all the way down to Egypt. When he is hovering over Eretz Yisrael, is he mekayim the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael? Is it only when you're sitting in the land, v'yishavtem ba, or when you're in the airspace of Eretz Yisrael, you're mekayim the mitzvah as well? What do you say, Rabbi Say?
Can we say it depends on what he's doing at the time when he's in the flight?
What do you want him to do?
Because if he's sitting learning Torah, according to Rabbi Shimshon Hirsch, the famous saying, Eretz Yisrael is not the land of the Jews, it's the land of the Torah. So if you're sitting learning Torah, we could say in that sense you're in Eretz Yisrael wherever you are.
Wherever you are. Based on what you're saying, people don't need to make aliyah. A person can live in Africa, but he's learning Torah, he's fulfilling the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael.
If that's the best place for him to learn Torah, that's how I understand what Rav Hirsch said.
When a person is learning Torah in Africa, he is fulfilling the mitzvah of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. But it's very hard to say that he is settling the land. How is he fulfilling the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael? It does say in the Gemara and Megillah that shuls, but the midrashos in the future will be transported from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. But he himself, how is he mekayim the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael?
Walking in Israel for Amah, what mitzvah is that?
Ksubis Kuf Yud Beis, Rambam Paskins as well. When one walks in Eretz Yisrael for Amos, every 4 Amos, a mitzvah, and he's assured, muftach lo, shehu ben olam haba for this mitzvah. But it's not one of the Taryag mitzvahs in the Torah.
So he might be fulfilling that, but Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is not fulfilling.
He's not fulfilling. Lichoira, every 4 Amos is a bonus for fulfilling the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. So you want him to get the bonus without the actual essence of the mitzvah? That's very hard to understand. I'm sorry? Up to 10 tfachim. Above 10 tfachim, it's a different reshus. So he's not fulfilling the mitzvah. But you're saying he is fulfilling. There's
also another benefit.
Oh.
Again, that's
Baba Basa Kuf Nun Ches Amud Beis, we learn the air in Eretz Yisrael makes one wiser. Will he get this? But if he's in a different tchum, maybe that's not the air of Eretz Yisrael.
In this leaflet Mesilot this week,
There's a what?
the English Mesilot booklet,
Okay.
it says about, he says the ground of Eretz Israel is more holy than the heavens.
Yeah, that's Chassam Sofer. More holy than the heavens in Chutz La'aretz. That's the language of the Chassam Sofer, which is a big chiddush. But there's a suffix in Yerushalmi, in Sanhedrin Perek Yud Alach Avav. In Parshas Re'eh we learn about Ir HaNidachas. What do we do to the people in the Ir HaNidachas that serve the Avodah Zarah? The majority of the people serve the Avodah Zarah. What do we do to them? What do we do to all their assets? Burn it all the animals, kill them all. There's a suffix in Yerushalmi. What happens to birds in Ir HaNidachas that are not staying in the ground, not sitting down? They're flying in the air. What do you do with them? Are they considered residents of the city, and therefore we should get rid of them just like the residents of the city and all the animals? Or since they didn't stand on the land, on the ground of Ir HaNidachas, they're not considered residents? Suffix in the Yerushalmi, a question without an answer. In Bavli, Makos Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis, we learn, if the unintentional killer runs and he jumps into a branch of a tree, which is in the territory of the city of refuge, but the trunk of the tree is outside the city, is he considered that he is in the city of refuge and the Goy Adam can't kill him? Yes. You see that even though he's not in the ground, he's in the airspace of the city of refuge, he is considered as if he is in the city of refuge. The trunk of the tree is not there, it's outside the city. But he is in the airspace of the city of refuge. I don't know if he's going to come wiser, I'm not sure how that works. But he is considered that he's in the city of refuge. Lichoira, you see from here, that the air will also be counted as part of the city, and it doesn't say here that he has to be below 10 tfachim. Maybe it's above 10 tfachim. But it could be that there's a chiluk. When you're sitting on a branch, it's a place that you can stay, can hang out there. You can't hang out in the air of Eretz Yisrael if you're not sitting on something. So maybe there's a chiluk and you can compare. About Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, the name of the mitzvah testifies. The pasuk says, we started with this, Vishavtem ba, you should sit in it. Just like there's no tchumin, like you said, above 10 tfachim, lichoira, the mitzvah is not fulfilled in the air. And more than that, there are many opinions that the whole reason, the tam for the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is in order to fulfill mitzvos hatluyos ba'aretz. How can you do that? Only when you're sitting in the land, not when you're in the plane. How can you fulfill tumas and maisis and other mitzvahs hatluyos ba'aretz when you're in the airspace of Eretz Yisrael? You can't fulfill it. And according to that, the mitzvah doesn't even start. And you see a remes to this from the psukim. The pasuk says, "Bamidbar lamed gimel ve'im lo torishu es yoshvei haaretz." Why are they called yoshvei haaretz? Shouldn't be called ve'im lo torishu et anshei haaretz? No, yoshvei haaretz, because it's all about sitting here. Later on in Ezra, Perek Dalet pasuk Vav, the pasuk says, "Katvu sitna al yoshvei Yehuda veYerushalayim." Again, yoshvei. Why yoshvei? Those who sit in the land. Anshe Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. No, because it's all about sitting. Why doesn't it say Polchei ba'avir? It doesn't say that. It says Yoshvei lichoira, suggesting that it's all about Yeshivas Haaretz. After I wrote this, I saw that Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky was asked the same question. Are you fulfilling the mitzvah when you're in the airspace of Eretz Yisrael? And Reb Chaim wrote to the person who asked him 3 words. Avir patur mimaiser. Meaning the Avir doesn't have the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, and maybe doesn't even have a name of Eretz Yisrael. And Lichoira, based on all of this, one is not fulfilling the mitzvah when he is hovering over Eretz Yisrael.
Planes had to reroute because they were going over a cemetery if they were Kwan.
That's Tuma. The Tuma. Who says it's the same thing with the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael? That's Tuma. Tuma, we know, goes all the way after Shabbat. Not necessarily, it goes the same with the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Why is it called Yishuv Eretz Yisrael? Aboy Shel, the Kodesh Baruch Hu ever laugh? Does the Kodesh Baruch Hu ever laugh? When does he laugh?
He gets angry.
He gets angry. Does he ever laugh? Listen to a language of Tana Devei Eliyahu. Tana Devei Eliyahu is Torah that we learn from Eliyahu Hanavi. Tana Devei Eliyahu Rabba Parsha Yudalid. Amar Lem HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Klal Yisrael, Banai, isn't it me that sat 974 generations before the world was created, and I examined and analyzed Divrei Torah, and from the time the world was created until now, I sit on my heavenly throne. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says his daily schedule. A third of the day I learn, a third of the day I judge the world, and a third of the day I sustain the world. It seems that he's very busy and he doesn't have time for laughter. Ve'en lefanai schok, ela sha'a achas bilvad. There's only once that I laugh. When is that? Ve'imasa yesh lefanai schok, when is it? Besha she'umos ha'oilam misgaim ve'oimrim. The time when the nations of the world proudly say, he's coming to fight us? With what? With tanks, with horses, with weapons, with M16s. It's different, with swords, different descriptions here. Charavot, with giboirim, with susim, alfei, alafim, thousands and thousands of heroes. And the nations of, we can take him on. At that time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Lama ragshu goim? Yoshev bashamayim yischak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes fun. It doesn't make a difference how many millions of enemies we are surrounded with. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev bashamayim yischak. The Medrash continues, Tana Devei Eliyahu, and says there's one more time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu laughs. One more time. Which these two things are so relevant to us today. אלא בשעה שפוישי ישראל מבלין את הקשיים שבהם. When the wicked ones among Klal Yisrael try to swallow up the tzaddikim, שנאמר, פסוק בתהילים, זוהי מהם רשע לצדיק. The evil one has all kinds of plans for the tzaddik. What does it say right after that? Hashem yischak loi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have his laughter. HaKadosh Baruch Hu laughs, comes out twice. When the goyim try to do all kinds of things to us and plan to fight us, and when the Reshaim try to swallow the tzaddikim in Klal Yisrael. Don't think we need further explanations and to analyze this. It's very, very simple. It's the language of Eliyahu Hanavi in Tana Devei Eliyahu Parsha Yudalid, how relevant it is to us.
What is the third that Hashem breaks up his day?
Sustains the world.
So the third?
He learns, he judges the world, and he sustains the world. In the Medrash, a different Medrash, it says that he actually is mezavik zivugim, a third of the day. The first Yom Kippur, after the release from the camps, Baruch Hashem, the Holocaust is over. The Kloisenberger Rebbe was standing with his talis. You know, he lost 11 of his children and his wife. The Hasidim are around him, and the Rebbe said, we're about to start Yom Kippur. Soon we're all going to say, Ashamnu, Bagadnu. We have betrayed? We? Bagadnu? How will we say Bagadnu? After what we've been through? 6 years? They butchered our brothers and sisters. Unimaginable torture. We betrayed? How did we betray? We're still here. We're all from. We have a Yamikazan. We betrayed? How can we say that? Everybody was silent. The Kloisenberger Rebbe said, yes, we betrayed. You know what we sinned with? That there were times, many times, that we didn't think it's possible to get out of this one. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu won't be able to redeem us. We lost the hope. We stayed firm. But we didn't really think that it's possible for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to get us out of this one. That's a betrayal in Emunah. And the deeper the Emunah, the deeper the anticipation for redemption. We must all get stronger, even today, when we have so many threats from different places in the world, all surrounding us. We just saw before, Hashem Yitzchak, Yoshev Bashamayim Yitzchak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes fun. He laughs at this. They can threaten till tomorrow, meaningless to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We call the shots. It's all about us. Pasuk in Eicha says, "Mipi elyon lo teitze hatoivos ve'hoz." From the mouth of Hashem, He doesn't call the shots. We call the shots. Our behavior dictates to HaKadosh Baruch Hu how He deals with us. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up the world. If we do tshuva, we do the right thing, salvation instantly. Yeshua Hashem kehere fine, the blink of an eye. Has nothing to do with them. Nothing. We call the shots. And therefore we must be mischazik in emun and bitachon. And one of the questions we are asked when one goes upstairs after 120 at least, Ha'im tzipisa liyeshua. Did you really anticipate salvation? And the best way to be thinking about it, you can think about it throughout the day, is when we say in Shmonayser, Matzmiach Keren Yeshua, and that bracha, you have to be thinking about it. I really believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu can redeem us, and He's going to, and I yearn. I can't wait for it. It's one of the 6 questions we are going to be asked. And therefore we must be able to answer, yes, we did. One of the great tzaddikim of the generation passed away about 5 or 6 months ago. I have the schus. He happened to be my cousin. And I am named for the same person that he was named, Rabbi Yeshua Tzuker. He sat in Ponovich for 50 years, learned Torah, taught Torah, ate Torah, slept Torah, was breathing Torah. His whole life was Torah. Mamish one of the tzaddikim, he knew the whole Torah. One day, a bachur in the yeshiva came to him during the 3 weeks. And he said to him, Rebbe, how do I connect? We're supposed to mourn for the loss of Beis HaMikdash. We never experienced Beis HaMikdash. I was never there. I don't know really what it means. I read the Midrashim, I understand big things, but how am I supposed to connect? It's the $50 million question everybody wants to know. Rabbi Yeshua Tzuker Zatzal, instead of answering him, got up and he said, come. He took him to the window. He opened the curtain and he pointed to the sun that was setting. He said, look, it's already Shkia. Today they won't be able to bring the Korban Tamid. And he started crying. Ay, 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 ay. That's what it means to live with anticipation. Yearning for Beis HaMikdash. Today, it's not going to be already Korban Tamid. Korban Tamid today of Shachar also won't be. Maybe Mitzvah Hashem Korban Tamid of Ben Arbaim, but Korban Tamid Shel Shachar won't be. Craziest riddle of the day. Who is the grandfather and the grandmother of Nebuchadnezzar? Nebuchadnezzar. Wicked Nebuchadnezzar. Who is his grandfather and his grandmother? Terach.
Way off. Huh?
You have a source? I'll take it with a source. Grandfather? Grandmother? One of them? Big Chiddush. Rabbeinu Achido Choy Masanach Yirmiyahu Lametes writes, I found in a medrash Yirmiyah and Nebuchadnezzar, when they were young, in their youth, they would used to hang out together, go for walks together, and they would play together. Nebuchadnezzar was very poor, and he used to honor Yirmiyah. But why? What's the connection? Says the Chida, I'll tell you a secret. V'imel soido tidrosh. You want to know the secret? I will reveal it. Shlomo HaMelech alav Shalom converted Queen Sheba, Malkas Sheva, and he was with her, and she had a daughter. And Nebuchadnezzar is the offspring of that daughter. So who's the grandmother of Nebuchadnezzar? Queen Sheba. Who's the grandfather of Nebuchadnezzar? Shlomo HaMelech. Yirmiyah is a Gilgul of Shlomo HaMelech. So even though, excuse me, even though Nebuchadnezzar didn't know it, Mazalei Chazei, the Mazal of Yirmiyah felt that when he's with Yirmiyah, he has to honor him. Because in essence, Yirmiyah is his grandfather, because Yirmiyah is a Gilgul of Shlomo HaMelech. So therefore, Nebuchadnezzar honored Yirmiyah, who really is a shtickle, sort of, his own grandfather. Tremendous, tremendous Chiddush. Reb Tzvi Hirsch Levinson was the son-in-law of the Chofetz Chaim. And he once came to Eretz Yisrael. Back then, it's a big deal. It's not like a 10-hour flight, a 5-hour flight, depending where you're coming from. You go back and forth, sometimes multiple times a year. He came from Eretz Yisrael, he came back, and they asked him, "No, how was it? Tell us, what did you see?" He said, I saw in Eretz Yisrael, they still have two things all the way back from the time of Churban Beis HaMikdash. Really? It's 2,000 years. I know. Two things are still there from the time of Churban Beis HaMikdash. What is it? And he said, the first one is the Koisel. The Koisel HaMa'aravi is still there in Yerushalayim. That's all the way back from the time of Churban Beis HaMikdash. Wow. You saw it? I saw it. What's the second thing? He told them the Yetzer of Sinas Chinam that destroyed Beis HaMikdash is still there. It's still there. It's 2,000 years and it's still here with us. Not only in Yerushalayim, it's all over. If Chazal tell us that every generation that Beis HaMikdash was not built in its time, it's as if they destroyed it. That means if we would have had Beis HaMikdash right now, it would have been destroyed. Because the Sinas Chinam that destroyed Beis HaMikdash, the Machlokes Lashon Hara, is apparently still here with us. But why is it called Sinas Chinam? Did you see what he told me? Did you see what he said? Or what she said? Why is it called Sinas Chinam? It's not baseless. A good reason. He didn't do it once, he did it to me 20 times. Why is it called Sinas Chinam? Sefer HaChinuch in Mitzva Reish Mem Aleph, not to take revenge, explains Mishorshei HaMitzvah, the roots of the mitzvah of don't take revenge. But why not? You saw what he did to me? Because a person must understand that whatever comes his way is from Ribono Shel Olam. And the person who delivered is only a shaliach. He's a messenger from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We learn it from David HaMelech. He was cursed by Shimi. Klala Nimretzes, major curse. Chazal Darshan in Sanhedrin. What does it mean, the word Nimretzes, a major curse? Nun, you're a noyef, you're an adulteress. Mem, you're not even Jewish, you're a Moavi, you're a Moabite. Reish is a Rotzeach, you're a murderer. Tzadik is a Tzoirer, you're an enemy. Taf is a Toyava, you're an abomination. Nimretz is an acronym for these 5 words. That's what he cursed him with. And what did David HaMelech do? David HaMelech is a king, he can kill him. He said to them, leave him alone. Hashem told him to curse me. When a person understands that everything that is handled to him in this world is from Ribono Shel Olam, how can you get upset? You're going to get upset at a shaliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? A shaliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to be honored, has to be praised. Maybe you should buy him chocolates, wine for Shabbos. Because whatever he did to you was only to cause you, to awaken you to do tshuva. And if it's really painful, it erases your sins. It's gewaldig. Now he has a cheshbon with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Why he decided to be that shaliach? Nobody asked him to be. But it has nothing to do with your cheshbon. Your cheshbon is with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And if you feel embarrassed, shame, whatever the person did to you, hurt, so you have mechilas avonos, atonement for your sins. And mistama, you're now awakened to do tshuva. Gewaldig. Messengers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to honor them. We have to love them. It comes out that every hatred is a baseless hatred. So apparently it seems like that the Yetzer for baseless hatred is still with us because we still don't have Beis HaMikdash. We should be able to eradicate it. And saturate the world with Avas Chinam, Avas Yisrael. In Mitzvah Hashem we will see Beis HaMikdash being rebuilt speedily in our days. אחינו כל בית ישראל הנשואים בצר ובשיב העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה אמרנו מברכם עליהם ויוציאם מצר לרווחה ואפלה לאוירה ושיעבוד לגאולה אשתו בעגולו בזמן קוריב ונאמר אמן